911, what's your emergency?
Help! There is orca attack on our ship. Please save us.
It started like a whisper beneath the waves, a faint vibration against the hull. Then impact. The boat shuddered. Wood cracked. Metal screamed. At first, the crew thought they'd hit debris. But then came another blow. And another. The force threw them to the deck. Lights flickered, and for a split second, the sea went quiet, too quiet. Then the ocean erupted. From beneath the black water, a white flash broke the surface. An orca. Its massive body rolled beside the boat, its dorsal fins slicing through moonlight. Another surfaced near the stern. Then another. They weren't passing by. They were circling. The crew of the Alboran Cognac, a small yacht sailing south of Lisbon, was about to experience something no one on Earth could truly be ready for. An attack not from storm or sea, but from the very creatures that have fascinated and terrified humans for centuries. Hours earlier, the night had been perfect. Calm winds, steady waves, the kind of ocean evening sailors dream about. The crew laughed as they crossed the coastline, watching the lights of Portugal fade behind them. Someone played soft music from a speaker. The captain adjusted the sails, content. They were experienced, comfortable with the ocean's moods, respectful of its power. But even peace can hide danger. One of them, a young deckhand named Luis, noticed dark shapes in the distance. He brushed it off as driftwood. But when he leaned over the rail, he swore he saw something move, something large beneath the water. He said nothing. Why spoil a perfect night over a shadow? The stars glittered. The air smelled of salt and promise. None of them knew that under those calm waves, something ancient and powerful was watching, listening, waiting. The first hit came just after midnight, a thunderous crack from the rear of the vessel. The rudder twisted violently. The helm jerked out of control. "What was that?" someone shouted. Before the words even left his mouth, another impact. This time from the side. The entire boat lurched. Water splashed over the deck as a massive black shape surged beneath them. Flashlights cut across the waves, and that's when they saw it. A pod of orcas. Their white patches glowed faintly under the moonlight, their dark bodies gliding through the water like living shadows. At first, the crew was in disbelief. Orcas here? Attacking a boat? But disbelief turned to panic when the strikes didn't stop. Each hit landed exactly on the rudder. Not random, not chaotic, methodical, deliberate. The captain shouted orders, but the ocean drowned his voice. The boat spun in a slow, helpless circle, and from below came that sound, a deep, resonant thud, followed by a haunting whistle. It was as if the orcas were communicating, coordinating every move. The sea had turned from tranquil to terrifying in seconds. Every sound, every shadow now meant danger. When the rudder finally snapped, the boat spun uncontrollably. Luis was thrown across the deck, hitting the railing hard. Another crewman dropped to his knees, clutching the radio. They tried everything, cutting the engine, turning off lights, staying silent. But nothing stopped the orcas. The pod struck again, harder this time. The sound was deafening, like thunder under the sea. Salt water poured in through a jagged gash in the stern. They pumped water out, their hands raw and trembling, but the holes widened with every swell. The ocean was swallowing them. And then, just as suddenly as it began, the attack stopped. The silence was worse than the chaos. They waited, breath held, listening to the hollow creak of the damaged hull. No movement, no splashes, only the slow drip of seawater inside the cabin. Had the orcas gone? Or were they still below, circling like ghosts? The captain's voice cracked as he gave the order. Deploy the life raft. Now. They scrambled to gather radios, flares, emergency gear. One man crossed himself quietly. Another whispered, "They're still here. I can feel it." And then came a deep groan from beneath, the sound of a dying boat giving way. The Alboran Cognac began to sink. The distress call went out just before the batteries failed. Coordinates transmitted. Then silence. Hours later, dawn broke across the Atlantic. The sky glowed pink, but the sea was eerily calm. Bits of fiberglass drifted in slow circles. A cooler, a life jacket, a rope, and, clinging to a life raft, for men. Soaked, exhausted, and shaking. When the Portuguese Coast Guard reached them, the men could barely speak. Their faces were pale, eyes hollow. Rescuers expected a storm wreck or mechanical failure. What they found instead defied every expectation. The rudder was torn completely off. Massive crescent-shaped gouges carved into the hull. No mistaking what had done it. The ocean's most intelligent predator had dismantled a human vessel piece by piece. One survivor whispered, voice trembling, "They weren't scared of us. They were playing, testing us." The rescuers didn't know how to respond, because they'd heard this before, in other towns, from other sailors, each story sounding more unbelievable than the last. This wasn't the first time. It was just the first time someone almost didn't make it back. Within days, marine biologists and oceanic researchers arrived. Footage from drones, sonar readings, even bite patterns were analyzed. And the conclusion stunned everyone. These weren't isolated incidents. Dozens of similar attacks had been reported off Spain and Portugal that same year. Every one involved orcas targeting boats, specifically their rudders. Experts called it a behavioral fad. Others called it something else entirely, a rebellion. There was a name that kept resurfacing in reports: White Gladys, a female orca believed to have been injured years ago by a yacht or fishing line. Since then, she and her pod had been observed teaching others to strike vessels, as if passing down a new skill or a grudge. Scientists tried to calm public fear, but their words carried a chill. These are intelligent, social animals. They learn fast. Locals weren't reassured. To them, this wasn't science, it was warning. The ocean had remembered, and now it was answering back. Weeks passed. The story faded from the headlines, but not from memory. Fishing boats near Cascais began to report eerie sightings, fins trailing in silence for miles, sometimes disappearing for hours, sometimes surfacing close enough that you could see the white of their eyes. Sailors started turning back at dusk. Others refused to sail alone. In coastal bars, they whispered of orcas that stalked boats, as if waiting for the right one. The Alboran cognac was only one of many. Days later, another sailboat was struck. This captain described the same pattern. 3 orcas, coordinated, relentless. Same precision, same result. Each incident added a new layer of fear, because no one knew why it was happening, or when it would stop. Authorities urged caution. Stay near shore, carry beacons. But warnings don't stop nightmares. For the people who make their living on the sea, the sound of the waves changed. It no longer sang, it watched. Even now, when night falls over Lisbon's coast, locals say you can hear their calls echoing across the bay. Those long, haunting whistles that drift across the dark water. It's beautiful until you remember what's making them. Somewhere beneath that same surface, a pod of orcas glides silently, each movement deliberate, graceful, calculating. They haven't attacked in weeks, but the fear hasn't left. Because the truth is, no one caught them. No one knows where they went. Maybe they've moved deeper into the Atlantic. Maybe they're watching new boats. Maybe they're teaching others. And if they came back tonight, if you were out there miles from shore, and you felt that first jolt beneath your feet, would you know what to do? The ocean gives, but it never forgets. It holds memory in its depths, of shipwrecks, storms, and now, perhaps, of vengeance. Because somewhere between the silence of the sea and the roar of the waves, the line between curiosity and survival has blurred. So next time you look out over calm waters, remember the sailors who thought the same thing that night off Portugal. That the sea was peaceful, predictable, safe. They were wrong. Because beneath that perfect surface, the wild still waits, watching, learning, remembering. Like this video, share it with someone who loves the ocean, and remind them, out there, beneath the waves, we are still visitors in someone else's world.